Welcome back to Morning Glory. It's 8:52. I'm Mike Graham, of course, here all the way through until 10 o'clock. Those idiots who sabotage those planes, if they like Palestine so much, send them there now to live under that regime, says Ian. Steve said food sales down, probably due to free fat jabs. It could be. I mean, apparently there's so many of them. You do see people around, don't you? You do see people around who look as if they just are an awful lot thinner than they were. And you just go, oh, yeah, really? You think? Was that a good diet then? Alex Wilson is here. Is he? Yes, he is. Reform UK's London Assembly member, because, of course, he was back in the news yesterday having a look at Sadiq Khan and trying to work out if Sadiq Khan is ever going to answer a question. Check this out.
If I was to barge through the barriers, I'm not going to, don't worry, but if I was to barge through the barriers, what would actually happen? What would actually happen to me? I know what would happen to me, because in a previous answer, you've talked about the 4 E's. You said that the staff are trying to engage. What does that mean? Educate, encourage, and then enforce. Why is enforcement... These are enforcement officers. Why is enforcement supposedly in their job title? Why is that only ever the last resort? I think Londoners will be disappointed that these people are there to enforce, supposedly, and they're not, because that seems to be the lowest priority in those 4 E's that you give them to do.
Sorry, Chair, I'm not sure what the question was.
It's just on the cameras. It was the cameras we're covering. OK. OK, sorry about that.
So that was the response, Alex. Goodness gracious me. Sadiq Khan, a man who, generally speaking, is sort of rude when you ask him a question, he's now developed a new tactic, which is just not to answer it at all.
Yeah, so yesterday it was Mayor's Question Time, that monthly event where I get to have my my regular ding-dong with the Mayor, and yeah, I was talking about fair evasion. It's an issue that we've talked about on the show before, really important issue for Londoners, and I was trying to get an answer from sort of why the enforcement officers, it's in their job title, enforcement officers, and yet of all the things that they're supposed to do when they encounter fare evaders, enforcement seems to be the lowest priority. And as you saw from the clip there, he just paused, wound down the clock, didn't want to answer, because you know, that's what he does.
Yeah.
And it's terrible, because he's leading this city. He has a mandate to run the city. He was elected fair and square last year, but he's not doing a very good job. And there are all these things that we want to hold him to account for. The only power I have as an Assembly member is to ask him questions. And if he's not even going to answer those questions now, then it's a really sorry state of affairs, isn't it?
It really is absolutely ridiculous. Neil Garrett, who's the Tory there, also, I think, put a question in. Let's have a look at that.
Yep.
I'm quite clear. As long as I'm Mayor, we will not be introducing paper mile.
And so then you've abandoned your net zero 2030 plan. Is that correct?
No, I'm quite clear. We still have a target to get to net zero by 2030.
So your own net zero 2030 plan, which I have here, says the scale of reductions required in traffic, the 27% that Assemblymember Russell was just talking about, is only possible with some form of road user charging. These are your words. You're the author of this report. And in the next paragraph, it goes on to clarify that means a pay per mile scheme.
I'm quite clear. We will not be doing paper mile as long as I'm Mayor, Chair.
But you're also quite clear that you weren't going to expand ULEZ to outer London. You said that in July 2021. Then a few months later, you launched a consultation. And you were quite clear that you weren't going to build any housing on the Greenbelt. And you're now quite clear that you are going to build housing on the Greenbelt. So with the greatest of respect, I think your categorical denials of what you might not do in the future aren't worth much based on your own track record.
Yeah, I mean, you might say that. I couldn't possibly comment. But it's extraordinary, isn't he? How does he get away with it?
Yeah. So, yeah, with Neil's question there, he was going round and round in circles. I think the point that Neil was trying to make was that the Mayor is committed to this ridiculous accelerated green pathway, net zero, not by 2050, but by 2030. Yeah. And according to previous stuff that Sadiq himself has published, in order to hit that, he needs to introduce paper mile. But now he's saying he's not going to introduce paper mile. And yeah, Neil was trying to pick at the inconsistency there. Perfectly valid thing to do. What Neil won't tell you, though, is that the Tories won't actually challenge that 2030 target themselves. I'm the only member on that Assembly who thinks that actually even trying to go for that 2030 target, which is costing Londoners billions every year, or will do if it's delivered, I'm the only one that's saying, actually, let's spend our money in a different way altogether. Yeah. So with a reform Mayor, you wouldn't even have these questions about paper mile, because we'd straight away end the war on drivers. We'd get rid of the nonsense target for net zero by 2030. We'd get rid of the target for 80% of travel in London to be so-called active or public transport. Let people choose how they get around our city. The air is cleaner anyway. Technology is getting better and better. Let's just live and let live, and stop trying to force people into things that restrict their freedom, restrict their their capability to go out and earn a living and you know, enjoy our city.
Absolutely, because you know this time last year there was no toll on the Blackwall Tunnel, and now there is. You know, he's built another tunnel as well, which also has a toll on it. But now the whole shape of traffic in that part of London has changed completely. And I don't think he ever said in any manifesto that I remember that they were going to put a toll on a tunnel which has been in existence for about 40 or 50 years, which has never previously had a toll on it.
Yeah, well, I tried to challenge him on this at the time as well. So we handed in, there was a local resident in, I think, in Greenwich, who had gathered a very large petition, and when I submitted that on his behalf to the Assembly, it was actually the largest petition that the Assembly had been presented with, obviously calling for the charges on both the Blackwall and the Silvertown Tunnel to not be introduced. But of course, he ignored that because, as he always says, yeah, it's a consultation, not a referendum. So if any kind of consultation that he runs, and you saw the same with the ULEZ expansion, if anything that he runs doesn't get the answer he wants, he'll just ignore it anyway because, you know, that's what he's like. He doesn't listen to Londoners when they're raising these really valid questions that people are so fed up with all these things he's getting wrong. And it's a shame because you know, we deserve better.
We really do. He's just not interested in answering for himself or for anybody else on his administration. Alex, good to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed. Alex Wilson there from the London Assembly Group of Reform UK.